The Supreme Court has resumed hearing the case related to stray dogs. The case is being heard by a bench comprising Justices Vikram Nath, Sandeep Mehta and Anjaria. I have Sambhav Sharma joining me. Sambhav, what more can you tell us? All right, viewers, this is of course big breaking news coming in at this point. Now there's an ongoing hearing that's happening at the Supreme Court, and this is of course, this hearing has been resumed related to the stray dogs situation that we've all been abreast about and we're all aware of it. Now currently the case is being heard by a bench comprising Justices Vikram Nath, Sandeep Mehta and Anjaria. Now this, viewers, is of course a very important issue when it comes to the safety, because there has to be a balance between humans and animals, of course, and the stray dog cases, the situation has been going on for a while now after all those incidents of people being bitten by stray dogs. And now, of course, this issue is back in the limelight. And there is, of course, an ongoing hearing that's going on in the Supreme Court regarding this. So we very shortly are going to get my colleague to give us more details. And I have Sambhav Sharma joining me right now. Sambhav, what more can you tell us about the case which is now being discussed at the Supreme Court regarding stray dogs?
Well, absolutely. Three-judge bench of the Supreme Court is hearing the stray dog case second day consecutively. And a lot of, argument being made in the Supreme Court as we speak, because since morning this matter is going on in the Supreme Court, because Supreme Court yesterday has made it very clear that it will hear everybody, as in all the parties, those who are the dog lovers, dog haters, or those who are saying that there should be some kind of policy. Everybody is putting forth their opinion in detail in the Supreme Court. If we talk about today's hearing, the Supreme Court has said, the bench has said that what they mean is that there should be some kind of rules and regulations to regulate, to manage the stray dogs. It's not that you remove all stray dogs from the street. This is what the Supreme Court in a way clarified today. The three-judge bench is hearing, and a detailed hearing is going on in the Supreme Court as we speak. And a lot of, arguments being made in the Supreme Court. If we talk about the important arguments made in this case, Solicitor General Tushar Mehta has talked about there should be some kind of regulation in the gated society. Supposedly today, if I think that I should have a dog, then I pet a dog, then somebody else could say that there should be, they want to pet a cattle. So there should be some kind of rule, some kind of norm, is what Solicitor General Tushar Mehta said in the Supreme Court. And also, as he has said, that why only talking about the stray dog? Let's talk about all the...
All right, Sambhav, I'll come back to you. Now, in the previous hearing, the court primarily considered the issue of the presence of stray dogs in institutional premises and questioned whether dogs should be allowed in courts, schools and hospitals. The court asked why ordinary citizens should bear the brunt of the administration's failure to comply with the animal birth control rules. Sambhav, this is a development, of course. Back to you on this.
Well, absolutely. Here, see, animal birth control rules 2023. It's being regularly being discussed since the very beginning. Since the very beginning of this particular hearing in the Supreme Court, and later on the three-judge bench has in a way amended its earlier judgment given by Justice J.B. Pardiwala's bench. And animal birth control rules are something which is more of in a way discussed in detail. See, because the Supreme Court has also in a way said there is no problem with the rules. It's the implementation of these animal birth control rules which should be kept, in focus, and in a way wrap the organization, the institutions, the municipalities, the MCDs, so that these rules should be implemented at ground zero. And also remember, the court has sought compliance report from all the states and union territories of the country. Many of the states have filed, over 15 states have already filed the compliance report, how they are following, implementing these ABC rules at ground zero. And few of the, states will have to still file the compliance report. This was what was informed by the amicus curiae in this matter to the Supreme Court today, that few of the states will have to case. So a detailed hearing on the compliance report, who all have filed the compliance report, what exactly there in the compliance report, everything Supreme Court is discussing in detail as we speak. This is remember, this is the second consecutive day of the hearing in the dock case, where Supreme Court is hearing all the parties, and it's likely that Supreme Court could come up with some kind of order or directions in this particular case.
Sambhav, stay on with me. Now, amicus curiae senior advocate Gaurav Agarwal informed the court that the remaining 4 states have now filed their affidavits. 16 states have complied and 7 states are still pending. Senior advocate C.U. Singh stated that 4 major states have formally objected to the Animal Welfare Board's standard operating procedures, and also submitted that the sudden removal of dogs could lead to an increase in the population of disease-carrying animals like rats. So that, of course, viewers, is the latest development. We're going to try and get in touch with my colleague so he can get you more details at this point. But, of course, this is regarding the very important issue of stray dogs on the road. And I have Sambhav back with me. Sambhav, now the latest is that senior advocate Gaurav Agarwal has informed the court that the remaining 4 states have now filed their affidavits and 16 states have complied while 7 states are still pending. What would you like to say?
Well, amicus curiae Gaurav Agarwal, who is the amicus in this particular case, the friend of the court, he has informed the court that 4 more states will have to file the affidavit, and few of the states, around 7 states, affidavit is still pending. So this is what amicus curiae has informed the Supreme Court on the affidavit. See, remember, the Supreme Court has yesterday was the first hearing in this case in 2026. Today is the second hearing, consecutive hearings going on as to who all have filed the reply, what exactly is the reply, and how the animal birth control rules 2023 are being implemented at ground zero. Everything is being discussed in the Supreme Court, and as you rightly point, is informed all these things to the Supreme Court in person, present in the Supreme Court before the 3-judge bench of Justice Vikram Nath, Justice Sandeep Mehta, and Justice N.B. Anjaria, the 3-judge bench who is hearing this particular case. And also, remember, see, many senior lawyers are agreeing that the main problem is the poor implementation of these animal birth control rules by the states and not the rules themselves in general, and also suggested that there should be a structural and phase-wise approach to come up with a better solution. See, on one hand, stray dogs is no doubt an issue, especially when it comes to dog bites, rising number of dog bites, and the rabies cases. But on the other hand, there are certain kind of animal rights in a civilized society. So there is a need to to make a balance between these two, and this is exactly Supreme Court is trying to do, to strike a balance, and that is why a detailed hearing is going on. Remember, see, this kind of hearing, a detailed hearing in the Supreme Court, where the 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court is hearing this particular matter over an hour since Supreme Court heard this case yesterday, and today also it's been around an hour the Supreme Court is hearing this particular case. We talk about today's argument. Senior advocate C.U. Singh in the Supreme Court has said that sudden removal of dogs could increase rodent population, which are disease carriers, and stressed that sterilization and re-release is a proven method. So Supreme Court is, yesterday, remember, Supreme Court has asked all the parties and also the specialist experts to come forward if they have some kind of suggestions. The Supreme Court is open to hear all the suggestions. So a detailed hearing is going on before the three-judge bench of the Supreme.
All right. I have Advocate Meet Usher, lawyer and animal rights advocate, joining me on the broadcast. Now, Advocate Meet Usher, of course, a lot of new developments when it comes to the stray dogs case. The Supreme Court, of course, is hearing the matter. What would you like to say?
Firstly, I would like to begin by saying that this is not an adversarial litigation, and it needs to be viewed as such for us to be able to focus on realistic solutions. Because otherwise, the kind of narrative that is building up is dog haters versus dog lovers. We should absolutely not want to divide the community or the country between two different groups, and that will only normalize violence and untoward incidents that happen. The solution is very clear. The scientific solution is the animal birth control, which is catch, neuter, vaccinate and release. This is something which the World Health Organization had recommended back in 1990. It has been successful in several cities in our own country, Lucknow, Jaipur, Mumbai to a greater extent. There are so many other examples. So if it is done diligently, then definitely we can reach a situation where the conflict between dogs and humans is at its minimum. Removing dogs abruptly and just, locking them up in jails literally is not the solution, because you never know which dog, you're basically suspecting all dogs to be aggressive and just picking them up, which is not how it works. I think a balance has to be struck, and that is something we hope the Supreme Court will truly do, because the 7 November order was passed without hearing any parties, and that has caused so much of problem. 16,000 is the data which the amicus has submitted before the court, saying that 16,000 dogs have been picked up from, institutions. Where have they been sent? Because there is not a single government-run shelter in this country. So what is happening is dogs are being picked up, rounded up, and literally thrown into jungles, relocated on highways, killed at worst, locked up in ABC centers which don't even have the space to accommodate these dogs.
Mr. Usher, I understand your point, but my question really to you right now is that, even if dogs are picked up and vaccinated and then put back on the streets, that does not stop them from biting people even then. What would you like to say on that?
So there is a clear SOP which was notified by the state of Uttar Pradesh, the state of Delhi and the state of Rajasthan, which said that a dog which bites unprovoked, which means without any provocation, should not be released back. So that is something that has to be checked. Because if somebody is going to, hurl stones at a dog, disturb a dog while the dog is sleeping or eating, and then get bitten, the blame cannot be pinned on the dog. We are of course not saying that dogs which are habitual biters or which are biting without any provocation should remain on the streets. Nobody is saying that. But does that mean that all dogs should be rounded up? Can we apply, would we dare to apply the same analogy to, in human matters, for eve teasing, for rape, for molestation, for sexual abuse? No. But conveniently we do it with dogs because they are dogs.
No, Advocate. Mr. Usher, the point really is that we're not speaking from the perspective of animal haters. But the question really is...
I'm not talking about the news channel. I'm just generally
No, I'm generally having a discussion with you, Mr. Usher. The point is that, there have been, we've seen multiple videos. There have been a lot of unprovoked attacks where children have been attacked, they've been mauled, people have needed plastic surgery. So what is the middle path? What is the middle path that you suggest? That all dogs are now rounded out, but we're still safe on the streets?
Those dogs definitely should be picked up, and those dogs definitely need to be placed in a facility where they will be looked after. We are not denying that. Nobody is denying that. We ourselves do not want, for a moment, even if I were to, say this from a selfish perspective, if you would understand this, dog attacks would mean cruelty with other dogs which are not attacking. Of course, we don't want that. Definitely, we empathize with people who have, unfortunately met with these kind of accidents or incidents. And we are clearly saying that dogs which are biting unprovoked, that needs to be addressed. Everybody is saying that. So that is not into question at all.
All right, Mr. Ashar, please stay on with me. Now, Justice Sandeep Mehta remarked that the court has not directed the removal of every dog from the streets and that they should be managed according to the rules. Senior advocate K. Venugopal stated that the presence of dogs in hospital wards is unacceptable, but there has been a lack of political will to implement the statutory rules so far. During the hearing, the court indicated that the real problem is not with the rules themselves, but with their implementation, following which the bench adjourned for a short while. I have Sambhav Sharma joining me. Sambhav, what is the latest development? All right. We now have with me on the broadcast, I do have advocate Fusail Khan, and he's an advocate on record at the Supreme Court. Now, Mr. Khan, what do you feel about the current developments when it comes to the dog issue?
The dog issue has been a very sensitive issue for quite some time. When it was earlier listed before some other bench, and at that point of time, the then CJI, Mr. Gawai, then he, transferred this matter to some other bench, and then this bench passed certain directions last year in the month of November. But the bench has been quite sensitive with regard to passing any orders, whether they should be kept, whether straightly going into the question of yes or no, but they are trying to formulate some kind of policy, some kind of a system where there can be, a survival of the dogs within the human community, as we have been seeing for ages, where we have stray dogs, and it's primarily related to stray dogs. So yesterday also, when the hearing was going on before the Supreme Court, this honorable court had said that, how are you going to, I mean, there were arguments that how are you going to feed so many dogs in those shelters. So they should be let loose, and there should be some kind of a community service which is to be done to dogs, where both the humans and the dog could coexist together, as they have been doing for last so many centuries in this country. But since the arguments advanced by some of the parties is they are taking a very harsh stand with regard to dog lovers. They have a very different kind of a view, and then there is a view which says that there should be a complete ban about the dogs roaming around in the street, and they should be catch hold of, and they should be sent to the shelters. So the court has to be very the court has to look into this aspect in a very different way, keeping in mind the balance between the humans and the coexistence with the dogs.
All right, Mr. Khan, I request you to stay on with me along with my other guest on the broadcast. Now, yesterday the matter was heard extensively, with the bench primarily examining the issue of stray dogs in institutional premises. It was questioned whether spaces like courts, schools and hospitals should have canine presence at all. Should people suffer because of the authorities' failure to comply with the ABC rules? Now, the court asked. The court will continue the hearing today. And I want to go across now to meet Ashar. He is, of course, an advocate. Now, Mr. Ashar, how do you feel about this particular point, where the question is really whether canine presence should be in courts, schools and hospitals or not?
That is not into question at all. They are a reality, and we will have to accept the reality if we want to focus on a solution. They have not come today when the Supreme Court started hearing the matter. They have been there for years. Can they suddenly be removed from there? All of a sudden, just because now we have realized we don't want the dogs there? There are so many educational institutions which have pleaded in the Supreme Court saying they don't want the dogs to be removed. Nalsar, Delhi University, IIT Bombay has given an undertaking saying they have no problem with the dogs. There are over 7,000 educational institutions which have written letters of support. What would one say about that? Saying that they are happily coexisting with the dogs in their campus. These dogs are also helping children battle depression, loneliness, anxiety. What would we say about that? Isn't that something to be considered?
All right, Mr. Ashar, thank you for joining me on the broadcast. And now moving on, during the Supreme Court hearing on stray dogs, counsel argued that responsibility for community dogs cannot be forced on anyone. Rule 11/3 remains a key point of contention. The counsel suggested that if the court's pilot project works in institutions, it could be expanded. He added that previous orders reinforced his rights regardless of majority opinion in RWAs. I have, all right, senior advocate Shyam Diwan, representing PETA India, told the court that many suggestions have already been made and urged the constitution of an expert committee. He highlighted that a 3-member committee has been set up in 2021 for animals facing extinction. Justice Mehta replied that no direct analogy can be drawn, but Diwan said there is scope for expert committees in the current matter as well. Sambhav Sharma is back with me with more details. Sambhav, over to you.
Well, here, detailed hearing in the stray dog case is going on before the 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is hearing the detailed argument for the second consecutive day. It's been an hour in the Supreme Court when this particular hearing, since it's day 2. All the, stakeholders, parties, experts, they are giving their opinions to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court is also asking certain clarification from the, from the lawyers. Here, senior advocate Shyam Diwan has said that educational institutions are large campus. He's talking about animal birth control rules, referring to Rule 11, Clause 19, which says that dogs have to be released back in the same area. Remember, this is again a bone of contention here, and now the experts can suggest where re-release can be ruled out, is what Shyam Diwan is. The Supreme Court, and prevalence of rodent increases when dogs are removed. Detention and confinement of stray dogs picked up. Norms for detention is 4 days. An animal confined or for large amount of time in same place may amount to cruelty. So these are the arguments, important arguments being raised by senior advocate Shyam Diwan. He is saying that an animal confined for large amount of time in small space may amount to cruelty, and directions for capturing dogs may be staggered until a local monitoring committee. So he's talking about coming up with a local monitoring committee. If that local monitoring committee, according to him, is satisfied that there are sufficient infrastructure arrangements for recovery of the dogs. Then here, senior advocate Siddharth Luthra, who is also who is appearing for Human World for Animals India, it's for an NGO. He is saying that by November 7th order, the earlier order of the Supreme Court, the court passed certain directions which go beyond these animal birth control rules. At the same time, it has been said that animal birth control ABC rules have to be followed. So again, both are the senior advocates in the Supreme Court, senior advocate Shyam Diwan, senior advocate Siddharth Luthra. Both are putting forth their arguments before the bench on the animal birth control rules, especially Rule 11, Clause 19 of
Sambhav,
ABC
stay on
rules.
with me. I want to go to Advocate Faisal Khan. Now he's an advocate on record at the Supreme Court. You know, Advocate Khan, this is, there's a lot of back and forth here. First, we're talking about birth control. Then we're saying that we'll vaccinate them, release them onto the streets. But the question really is that even if dogs are released, that does not stop them from biting people. A lot of videos have come out of unprovoked attacks on small children. People have had to go through plastic surgeries because of this. Now, my question to you really is that what is taking so much time really? If it comes to the dog lovers, you know, an area, an infrastructure could be constructed for the dogs where they're safe, where they're given food, and ideally they should be taken off streets so human beings are also safe. What do you have to say about this whole scenario, about the back and forth, and when will we finally have a solution?
You see, the question which you have raised has its own answer because there are two kinds of dogs. One is the home dogs, I mean, the normal breeds which we have at home, which we purchase. And there are dog lovers. There are people who have those dogs in their house, big dogs, small dogs, all sort of sizes. But then there is a classification, stray dogs. So stray dogs have been in existence with human, especially with us in this country, for a very long time, and they have become a part and parcel of our way of living. Like if you see in villages, in small towns, in gully mohallas, they are basically your natural watchdogs, and people do feed them for all kinds of beliefs. Some feed them because they have sympathy for them. Some feed them due to their spiritual reasons, and some feed them. People have different kinds of beliefs and different kinds of methods to feed them. But sterilization, birth control, it's not something new. Animal husbandry departments in all these states have been formed decades back, 50 years, 70 years back, and they are into this job. Whether it's stray animals or whether it is domesticated animals like buffaloes and goats and ducks and chickens and everything. So even the stray dogs, the municipal corporations and the nagar nigams and the gram panchayats in villages, they have doctors that come in from cities, from towns, and then they catch hold of these dogs, and then they try to sterilize them. So this is one aspect, but completely wiping them out of the society will be something which will have its own impact, because you cannot throw them. They are actually, see, there are dogs that are born in a particular environment where the breeding takes place, then they're growing up, the grooming takes place. But as far as these stray dogs, once they are in open for such a long time, maybe a year or 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and then they come into this reproductive age. Now suddenly you catch hold of them and then you put them in shelter. So this will have an adverse impact, as I read it in the newspaper today itself, that they say, then they will start biting them, each other. There'll be increase in rabies. So definitely, you cannot have one stand that, you just need to wipe out dogs. As far as, institutions are concerned, yes, we can have a limitation that because there are huge universities,
Mr. Khan, I'll have to
universities.
interrupt you because we're very short on time and we're getting this breaking update. But thank you so much for joining me. Now, CCTV footage from the day of the stone pelting is